Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who began life as a slave, offers one of the clearest and most enduring lessons on the power of choice. His philosophy revolves around a simple yet profound idea: though we cannot control the external world, we have complete authority over how we respond to it. The circumstances of life, the actions of others, illness, loss, and fortune, these are outside our control. But the mind, our judgments, our intentions, and our actions are entirely within the sphere of our power. It is here, within the choices of our own reason and will, that true freedom resides. Understanding this distinction, Epictetus argued, allows us to live not as victims of circumstance, but as masters of our inner lives. This perspective is the key to resilience, serenity, and meaningful action, especially in a world that constantly tests our patience and judgment. Choice, in the Stoic sense, is not merely selecting between options. It is the conscious alignment of thought and action with virtue. Epictetus taught that we often suffer not from events themselves, but from our interpretations of them. When misfortune strikes, it is not the event that diminishes us, but the judgment we pass on it. To recognize this is to reclaim agency. For example, if a friend betrays trust, we cannot always control their behavior, but we can control our response. We can choose anger, resentment, and endless rumination, or we can choose understanding, acceptance, and constructive action by focusing on what lies within our control. The choice of our response. We convert potential suffering into an opportunity for growth. This approach requires rigorous self-awareness. Epictetus emphasized the practice of examining one's own thoughts and impulses, discerning which are under our control and which are not. The mind must become a vigilant guardian, observing tendencies toward blame, jealousy, or despair. When we identify these automatic reactions, we gain the opportunity to intervene with reasoned choice. This is not a passive process. It demands engagement, attention, and discipline. Yet it is precisely through this exercise that we cultivate strength, clarity, and freedom. Epictetus also stressed the importance of distinguishing between ends and means. Many people expend energy worrying about outcomes, wealth, recognition, success. But these lie largely outside their control. What is within our control is the effort we put forth, the integrity with which we act, and the virtues we cultivate. By focusing on intention and action rather than uncontrollable results, the mind is liberated from frustration and anxiety. This does not lead to passivity. Rather, it encourages purposeful action informed by discernment. Choice is exercised not only in what we do, but in the attitude we bring to every endeavor. The philosophy of choice also extends to our perception of events. Epictetus taught that the world itself is neutral. It gains meaning only through our judgments. Illness, poverty, and misfortune are neither inherently good nor bad. It is the interpretation and response that color our experience. By cultivating equanimity, the ability to see events without emotional distortion, we maintain sovereignty over our inner life. In modern terms, this is akin to recognizing cognitive biases and choosing to respond rationally rather than react impulsively. Stoic choice, therefore, is a form of mental discipline that transforms perception into a tool for empowerment rather than a source of suffering. Choice is inseparable from responsibility. Epictetus made clear that freedom is not license, it is the alignment of will with reason. The power to choose carries with it the obligation to choose rightly, to act with virtue, courage, justice, and moderation is to exercise choice in its highest form. This is both liberating and demanding, for it requires continual self-reflection, ethical discernment, and the rejection of immediate gratification in favor of long-term flourishing. The ancient Stoics understood that moral integrity is not accidental, it is the result of deliberate, conscious choice exercised daily. One of the most practical aspects of Epictetus' teaching is the exercise of anticipation. He counseled imagining potential difficulties in advance, so that when they occur, The mind is prepared to respond with reason rather than panic. By contemplating possible misfortunes, we practice choosing equanimity, patience, and virtuous action before challenges arise. This mental rehearsal strengthens the mind's capacity to act intentionally rather than being swept along by impulse. The power of choice is exercised not only in real-time decisions, but also in shaping the mind to respond wisely to the inevitable trials of life. Epictetus also highlighted the significance of inner dialogue. He encouraged his students to engage in continual reflection, asking themselves whether their judgments are just, whether their desires are in alignment with nature, and whether their actions serve virtue. This ongoing conversation cultivates the capacity to pause before reacting, to select the course that aligns with wisdom, and to resist the emotional turbulence that often accompanies unexamined impulses. Choice, therefore, is not a single act, but a continuous practice, a discipline woven into every moment of conscious life. The philosophy of choice encompasses emotional regulation. Epictetus observed that we are often disturbed not by events themselves, but by the opinions we form about them. By recognizing that emotions arise from judgments, and that judgments are subject to reasoned control, we can choose responses that maintain calm, clarity, and ethical integrity. Anger, fear, and envy are not inevitable, they are choices rooted in perception and expectation. By mastering these inner decisions, we preserve peace of mind even in circumstances that might otherwise provoke distress. Choice also shapes our relationships. Epictetus taught that we cannot control others, yet we can control how we engage with them. In interactions, we choose patience over irritation, understanding over condemnation, and compassion over judgment. By exercising choice in our relational conduct, we foster harmony and reduce unnecessary suffering. We recognize that the quality of relationships depends less on external circumstances than on the intentionality and virtue of our responses. In this way, choice becomes a tool for cultivating both personal freedom and social harmony. The ancient practice of choice also includes the recognition of limitations. Epictetus reminded his students to distinguish between what is truly theirs, thoughts, will, and actions, and what is not, wealth, reputation, health, and other externals. This distinction fosters humility, resilience, and acceptance. When we accept that we cannot control everything, yet retain control over our internal decisions, we liberate ourselves from frustration, resentment, and self-pity. The power of choice becomes a sanctuary, offering agency in a world of uncertainty. In modern life, the teachings of Epictetus resonate strongly. We are bombarded with circumstances beyond our control, economic pressures, political turbulence, interpersonal conflicts, and global crises. Yet within this chaos lies the potential for sovereign choice. How we respond, what we prioritize, and how we interpret events are entirely within our domain. By exercising this power with intention, we align with Stoic wisdom, cultivating resilience, ethical clarity, and tranquility. Choice is both shield and compass, protecting the mind from suffering and guiding it toward virtuous action. Education and reflection are crucial for exercising choice. Epictetus emphasized the cultivation of philosophy as a daily practice, a tool to sharpen reason and fortify judgment. Reading, reflection, dialogue, and meditation serve as training for the mind, strengthening the capacity to discern what is within our control and to respond with wisdom. Choice, therefore, is not an abstract concept but a skill, developed through practice and application. The more consistently we engage in this practice, the more natural it becomes to respond to life with clarity, resilience, and virtue. Choice also intersects with the concept of freedom. True freedom, Epictetus argued, is not the absence of external constraints, but the mastery of one's internal domain. When the mind is governed by reason and aligned with virtue, external circumstances, no matter how limiting, cannot enslave the soul. The exercise of choice is the exercise of freedom. the cultivation of inner autonomy in a world where external control is often illusory. This perspective transforms adversity from a source of helplessness into an arena for empowerment and ethical development. The philosophy of choice extends to the cultivation of character over comfort. Epictetus insisted that one's ethical and moral decisions should take precedence over immediate pleasure, convenience, or social approval. Choosing to act with integrity, courage, and justice, even when difficult, is a form of power far greater than any external influence. This commitment to virtue reinforces the idea that the ultimate domain of human control lies in the quality of thought, intention, and action. Choice, therefore, is inseparable from moral responsibility. Ultimately, Epictetus teaches that the mind itself is the arena of freedom and mastery. External circumstances are fleeting, unpredictable, and often indifferent to our desires. Yet within us lies the capacity to select our responses, shape our character, and cultivate peace of mind. This understanding transforms the experience of life. Setbacks become opportunities to practice resilience, challenges become tests of virtue, and adversity becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. The power of choice is not theoretical, it is a lived, moment-to-moment practice, a commitment to sovereignty over the inner life. To embody this philosophy today is to practice constant reflection, cultivate awareness of what lies within our control, and exercise deliberate, ethical choice in thought, emotion, and action. It is to recognize that freedom is found not in altering the world to our liking, but in mastering our own mind. Every decision, no matter how small, becomes a training ground for the virtues Epictetus held dear: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By aligning our choices with reason and virtue, we step into the ancient path of agency and freedom, transforming each moment of life into an opportunity for ethical, purposeful action. Through Epictetus, we learn that we are never as powerless as we may feel. While external events may surprise, challenge, or constrain us, the mind remains sovereign. By exercising choice with awareness, patience, and virtue, we reclaim authority over our lives. The power of choice is both shield and tool, a shield against the turbulence of circumstance, and a tool for building a life of integrity, tranquility, and meaning. To live in accordance with this principle is to walk the ancient path of freedom, where every moment offers the opportunity to act rightly, to think clearly, and to embody the highest potential of human reason.